Beauty, the most important thing in a girl's life. After all, the only time they're not on display like an ornament is when they're at the dressing table. And even then, not quite. Here we have M. Shakespeare, who is a girl, I think, willing to perform their beauty routine for you, the viewer. Prior to the camera's introduction into their morning, M. Shakespeare spent the normal and necessary amount of hours scrubbing, shaving, waxing, and grooming their hair for the effortless look they're presenting to you now. They did their eyebrows off camera. Not to mention the $1 million trust fund insured to them by their oil rig-owning father, which is usually spent on expensive professional beauty care and procedures that regular working-class people will never see the light of. Oh, M. Shakespeare is quite unused to the nature of these videos. You don't get to talk, M. Shakespeare. Just sit there and look pretty. Right. To get the natural and obtainable beauty as shown by M. Shakespeare, let's proceed. In the world of beauty, it's best to start with a fresh face, clean of any grime or city air. Society loves their ornaments to be polished and perfumed delicately, so everything that is sold to said ornaments for promised beauty infiltrates the skin better. Depending on your budget, you're free to use any agreeable soap. M. Shakespeare prefers White Bouquet for its awarded promise of being the gentlest skincare on earth. You just cream the soap into a lather with your fingertips, making sure to rub extra hard in especially problematic areas. Rinse and blot dry. After your face has been washed, it's best to apply a cold cream. It adds moisture and softens the skin, which will come in handy for the devastating effects of the arsenic wafers I'm going to sell to you later. Once applied, wipe away excess with a soft towel and allow it to melt into the skin. See how M. Shakespeare glows? Which is bad, by the way. Glowing implies oil on the skin, which is not only bad because it's natural, but good because it makes our vast inventory of powder much more sellable. Applying another cream is essential at this step. M. Shakespeare uses Bloom of Babylon, the delicate complexion cream. It's great for removing freckles, morphews, worms, hair follicles, and just about every other lively characteristic on a healthy human being. The lavender essence and white lead ingredients work together to smoothen out the skin and create a perfectly dry, pale, affected complexion. Next comes powder, M. Shakespeare's favorite part. They find that White Bouquet also makes the best talcum powder, perfect for applying thickly to the skin. It absorbs moisture and keeps the skin fragranced in a way that men love. Usually, M. Shakespeare loves applying it all over their body right after a nice, warm bath, which is fun to picture for the lads at home. It lasts hours and hours and makes your body a flower field for the men in your life to frolic through. Yes, every morning and before every date, sprinkle yourself liberally with White Bouquet. It works the same for the face. Press gently into the pores, making sure to get close to your breathing orifices for maximum coverage and mesothelioma. There, you look like a doll. It's also important to invest in arsenic wafers for a transparent, clear, and fresh complexion. Dr. Warcrime's safe arsenic complexion wafers transform even the most sallow skin into radiant, white health by killing red blood cells, and hair, and kidney function, and heart function, and liver function, and take one every morning during your beauty routine, and an ample amount throughout the day on a light diet to get glowing, nearly corpse-like skin. And if that doesn't work, get out your sword for a bloodletting ritual popular with such beauty icons as Marie Antoinette and your centuries-dead grandfather. Good. I mean, I see a few things that can be taken care of, but sure. Have you ever tried the tapeworm diet? Expeditiously. What of belladonna eyes? And have you ever heard of anti-wrinkle drinking straws? Nonsense. All of the new TikTok beauty stars are doing it. Regular straws are normal and give you wrinkles, which are natural and bad. But our new anti-wrinkle drinking straws that we invented to make you more insecure are the holy grail of anti-aging. No more puckering or suckering.
I tried to get myself an at-home nose job, and here's how it turned out.
Hi.
This guy says hello, I want to kill myself.
In an ironic turn of events, I cannot sit down because my dress will break, and I refuse to take the dress off because you guys need to see it. No matter the season, the internet is usually always unbearable. I would know. I work here. Between Twitter, men with microphones, and conservative meltdowns about the God-given right to use gas stoves, treading on the World Wide Web is like treading on a snake in the South. You just don't do it. They have a flag about it and everything. But there's another aspect of the internet that seems to be increasingly harder to ignore. Beauty horror. And no, I'm not talking about the countless TikTokers who are forgetting the war crimes Jeffree Star has committed in his 800,000-year career just because they want to watch his mascara videos, nor am I talking about the chaos that was By Sister. I'm not even talking about Shane Dawson proposing to his fiancée on 2 knees. I'm talking about our culture's obsession with beauty to a detriment. Like body horror, the popular film subgenre, beauty horror bends our bodies and minds in grotesque, almost unnatural formations for entertainment. And it's quickly becoming the talk of the town.
Hey, Queen. Girl, you have done it again. Constantly raising the bar for us all. And doing it flawlessly.
Tiffany Ferguson and Jordan Teresa each made quality videos about the subject of beauty and body trends in the media and how harmful they are to our brains and self-esteem and red blood cell count. Tiffany specifically focuses on what body trends are overtaking the social zeitgeist at the moment, especially when it comes to plastic surgery. And Jordan tackles the effects these trends may have on our mental health and attention spans. It's like there's a screeching cacophony of what we should look like being played on an intercom speaker in every room we enter. The grocery store.
Our waist needs to be invisible behind an A4 paper or we're not pretty enough.
The mall.
Which kind of pretty are you? Natural pretty, model pretty, or popular pretty?
Even your local library is being infiltrated.
Film yourself from the back to see how tiny your waist is or how big your butt looks. No, wait, go get a mirror and deeply inspect every inch of your vagina. Are you an innie or an outie? What color is it? Oh, by the way, have you ever heard of labiaplasty?
And they're not even being funded properly. Our current beauty conversation is undeniably different from beauty trends of the past. No one, God willing, is eating arsenic wafers to maintain pale skin anymore, right? Right? But that doesn't mean we're not displaying symptoms of sickness. Our contemporary obsession with beauty is defined by a rapid repackaging of aesthetic content, labels, and standards that are set to be more aspirational than obtainable. Clean girl has become that girl, has become vanilla girl, has become warm cinnamon spice latte almond girl, has become pat a cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can. Girl. Rapid repackaging and a constant surveillance of aesthetics implies beauty obsession because we're incapable of just existing outside of performance. We're not even capable of slowing down. Every moment is characterized by how we look, what aesthetic we embody, how others perceive us. It has gotten so pervasive that people have begun amplifying normal, unaesthetic routines just to show they still exist. Others still have begun taking part in what they call de-influencing, which means minimalizing the importance of consumerism and telling their audiences what not to buy. My argument is not that this rapid repackaging is detrimental simply because it's annoying, and it is quite annoying. I believe it contributes to the growing chasm between us and aspirational beauty. This chasm ensures that we're forever inadequate, always chasing a goal we will never obtain. We keep spending money, keep changing ourselves, just to remain ugly in society's eyes. Not only that, beauty obsession and the constant need to self-survey, self-monitor, and self-commodify makes us into products to be consumed. Even when we're not necessarily selling ourselves as influencers, we're still surveilling and marketing ourselves to some perceived audience. This rapid repackaging of aesthetics also means that we're being inundated with media after media, reminder after reminder, that the most important and most successful job we can have, especially as women and feminine presenting people, is to be beautiful, to be pleasing to look at, both in the mirror and by others. We need to be that perfect ornament adorning a room at all times, or else we have failed at a crucial aspect of our being. The question you may be asking yourself now, or at least the question I'm going to be forcibly implanting in your head, is whether or not TikTok is to blame for all of this? Is the new generation so obsessed with beauty that we're skewing our standards? Is all of this the fault of trend followers and influencers? After all, TikTok is where a decent portion of younger people view aspirational beauty content. It's also where I found out about the serial killer beauty test, so, go to hell. But hear me out. TikTok is not the problem. Why are you booing me? I'm right. I mean, it's certainly not helping, but if the app imploded tomorrow, or better yet, if the app never existed in the first place, we would still be exhibiting signs of beauty sickness. Now, whether that sickness is exacerbated or, diminished, who's to say? It's not enough to critique the people partaking in these trends, especially when those people have been socialized their entire lives to do so. You can argue that they should know better, but how effective is that argument against reality? We're shown through the media that beautiful people, by certain standards, live the best lives. They get more romantic interests, more money, more friends. Their family even seems to love them more. Alternatively, people who are depicted as ugly, read also above a size 2, with glasses and pigtails, are shown to be suffering in one aspect or another before they're transformed and accepted as their new beautiful identity. How do you not internalize that? How do you not define your life by your appearance when you're told that's the most important thing about you?
That isn't to say, of course, that we should infantilize people and assume that we are all powerless, therefore incapable of critically engaging with our beauty sickness. While I believe that there's a systemic issue at hand that perhaps our individual actions may not be able to overthrow overnight, I also think that there's a lot we can do on an individual level to combat the problem. One of those things is taking responsibility for how our beauty sickness affects not only us, but other people, especially online. I think Jordan Teresa made a great point in her video that there are people who purposely participate in indirect or direct shaming of others to create insecurities in viewers. It kind of reminds me of people who are insecure in themselves and try to make themselves feel better by bringing someone else down, almost as if they're weaponizing their insecurities against others to save themselves. For instance, I saw a TikTok from a person who was gloating about having a small nose as a person of color and outright stating that they're better than other people of color because of it. And while I do wholeheartedly believe that has a lot to do with internalized racism and futurism due to Eurocentric conditioning, it's also a really sad, harmful thing to say. It's a statement that has repercussions, even if it's presented as a personal preference or whatever. Like, how do you post something like that and not know how detrimental that can be to other people of color, especially younger people who are more likely to internalize those beliefs? I think that's something that must be challenged not only by viewers, but by the person who actually said it. Beauty sickness is sold to us and expected of us. That is undeniable at this point. But at a certain point, we must question our own actions and beliefs and push back against these narratives. I know it's hard to challenge or even see where to challenge this behavior, especially because beauty surveillance and beauty trends at the moment normalize comparison, they normalize denigration and aspirational superiority. But still, I think that it is important.
I will admit that it's easy to blame the internet because of how fast-paced and ever-present it feels. Renee Engeln notes how, despite beauty sickness being a thing for centuries by this point, the internet seems to oversaturate the conversation. It's faster, it's much more accessible, and it is extremely hard to live life outside of accessing it. Sure, you can live without magazines now, or even a television, but in an age where just about everything is becoming digitized, how do you live without at least a phone? Just on the internet alone, we're being exposed to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of beauty ads, videos, and images per day. That is significantly different from earlier mediums like magazines, commercials, and billboards. But I would argue that there is an entire system at play that aid in our beauty sickness, systems that go beyond TikTok girlies and silly little reels. I'm not saying these things aren't detrimental. They certainly cause harm to those who watch and internalize them. But they're also a byproduct created by a culture that will continue to exist and evolve into new mediums. TikTok won't always be at the top of our list, but beauty sickness will. What did I say about critiquing the fruit on the ground and expecting the tree to stop shedding? Our ability to expand outside of our beauty sickness is partially dependent upon how willing we are to zoom in on the source of the problem, not just as byproducts. Tools, not targets, dearest viewer. That is the Shakespeare way. Now here's the thing. I love being beautiful. It's something that feels indulgent, like a hobby. I like surrounding myself with beautiful things, wearing beautiful things, feeling beautiful things. Beauty is okay, it's aight. It's much more natural than we give it credit for. People a lot smarter than me have hypothesized that to a point, our attraction to beauty can be biological. Some of us desire someone to pass along our genes with, someone who looks healthy and strong and who potentially guarantees the longevity of our offspring. That is definitely not what goes through my mind when I see a beautiful person, but sure. Let's go with that. Beauty is a complex subject, one that can't be defined on a scale of good or bad. For reference, when I say beauty, I'm speaking about a multitude of things, not just a person's appearance. I think the color pink is beautiful. I think my cats are beautiful. I think my videos are beautiful. Although beauty is considered a woman sort of adjective, I use it liberally across gender lines unless asked not to. I think beauty can refer to how good someone feels in their looks, how affirmed they are by their presentation. I feel beautiful when I present ultra femininely, but I also feel beautiful when I present androgynous. And because it kind of makes this discussion easier to have when we settle upon a universal word. Beauty is integral to our lives because so many things are affected by it, both people and objects. How can something so seemingly innocent and natural to our existence cause such harm? I want to emphasize that no one is telling you to gather your bras, lipstick, and high heels and toss them in a flaming trash can. It's very possible to acknowledge our beauty sickness while participating in and even liking beauty routines. This was something I had to really challenge while researching because I felt that a lot of the conversations within the sources I was reading were somewhat hostile to people who enjoyed beauty culture, like myself. This idea that if you're focusing on your beauty, you also can't possibly be focusing on your intellect or your life goals feels too simplistic. Do we really have to unfocus on beauty to live full lives? Can beauty and self-determination coexist? And anyway, that's not really the root of this discussion, is it? Are we arguing that people can't like beauty because it's inherently anti-feminist? Or are we simply saying that beauty sickness is poisoning us as a society and that we must take the necessary steps to place a smaller emphasis on it? Well, the latter sounds more plausible. To me at least, so. This conversation doesn't seek to villainize beauty, but to understand it better in order to turn our obsession with it down. It seeks to explain that, yes, beauty obsession can and is harmful, but beauty itself is not the enemy. Beauty is important to people in numerous ways, even when it comes to ordinary life. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's hell on earth here. We are in the custody of a broke, deadbeat father who owes trillions in debt. Preventative or at least fixable tragedies occur daily because people prioritize money over lives. And we elected a reality star as the president. I'm surprised we've made it this far, honestly. Life sucks. And sometimes it feels really good to just look at something you find beautiful and be reminded how simple life should be. Colors in a fall soup, the texture of your scarf or mittens, some K-pop idol who will never know your name. Beauty feels almost like a safety zone in the way that it comforts me, even if that beauty isn't cosmetically related. People also tend to think of beauty as a power. We're constantly deluged with the femme fatale, the siren. Goddamn siren. TikTok would collapse in on itself if that aesthetic was taken away from them. The femme fatale archetype is characterized by fatal beauty and seductiveness. She's often depicted as getting whatever she wants, whenever she wants, particularly from men. This is an idealized archetype, one that we look up to and say,
Oh, she is so cool. Oh, she is so powerful.
We admire the femme fatale because she usually represents something that society takes away from us. In so many words, the media tells women that the one power bestowed to them in an otherwise powerless state is their sexuality and looks. Asterisk included, of course. They won't get taken seriously because they hardly ever are, but they still get their way. It's what makes the idea of being strictly ornamental so attractive to some people because they're told that that's all the power they're going to get. might as well use it.
Now, Megan, I have to ask you, because you're known as a sex symbol, and I imagine that could be an enormous amount of pressure at times. How has that influenced positively or negatively your fashion choices?
I feel like I've always leaned into it. I'm not afraid to be sexy. I think a woman who's intelligent and also knows how to weaponize her beauty,
Come on, Jennifer's body.
There's nothing more dangerous than that. There's nothing more powerful than that. And so I think I feel like all women should embrace the fact that as the divine feminine, we have a lot of power in that. Instead of rejecting it, I'm happy to embrace it and go for the sexy.
But this power is not ours to have. It's based on how much other people, usually men, find us attractive. Engeln describes it as a conditional power. There's always someone else in charge. It's a grotesque kind of power that begins to disappear just as a woman starts to find her footing in the world. Because societal beauty standards are so horrible, using beauty as a power is conditional because you will inevitably lose your beauty if it's defined solely by said standards. When you age, when you gain weight, when you're born anything other than a blonde, conventionally attractive, white woman. A discriminatory beauty system will always turn on you the second you underperform in any given category. That mirror that you keep yourself locked in for so-called power turns you invisible. The problem is not that people enjoy and participate in beauty. The problem, as Renee Engeln describes it, is beauty sickness, not beauty itself. You know you're beauty sick when you put all of your energy into your appearance and fail to spend time on other aspects of your life. When you feel as though you have to participate in beauty trends rather than just desire to. When you feel that you have to wear makeup or a put together outfit or have a 45-step skincare routine just to be accepted as a worthy human being. When you're beauty sick, you emphasize beauty above all else. You're trapped in the mirror. Now, something a lot of people may misconstrue at this point is that beauty sickness is a choice. People are choosing to be trapped in that mirror, dictated by what other people think about their appearance. There's this popular belief that smart women know better and therefore learn how to place emphasis on their personality and thoughts rather than their appearance. Unlike the evil, easily brainwashed, hyper-obsessed wench who cares about her looks. And this argument pisses me off. For the most part, people aren't choosing to be beauty sick, and they're not beauty sick because they're less intelligent or critical than someone else. They're beauty sick because they're being inundated with image after image, song after song, TikTok after TikTok of idealized beautiful women that they are told that they need to look like, that they need to aspire to look like. Regardless of intellect, women are taught through our beauty sick culture that their looks are the most important thing about them. And then when they begin to internalize that, we call them vain, stuck up. We say that it's their choice and entirely their fault that they behave this way. Beauty is at once something we must embody and something we must openly criticize, or else we're part of the problem. Somehow not the culture that enforces it. This conditioning is not something you can just switch off with some media literacy and a course in feminism. Studies actually show that media literacy alone cannot cure someone of beauty sickness. Neither can feminist values. It's kind of like being in a room full of television screens. You're tied down to a chair and you're unable to escape the pressing messages being sold to you. You'll be happier when you're prettier. You'll live a more fulfilling life if you meet these standards. Everyone will love you and you'll be more successful if you look like this. You can try closing your eyes, but there's still the intercom overhead infiltrating your very thoughts. If you practice media literacy, you have the tools to understand that these statements and images are false. But you still can't help but to wonder, to be convinced. Engeln states, knowing better is not enough to protect you from the beauty ideal. Not when so many other elements of your culture promises you that your happiness is bound to achieving that ideal. Beauty sickness is enforced by what I call aspirational beauty. No matter if you hit every characteristic on the long list of beauty standards, there will always be one thing that holds you back from obtaining the perfect ideal. Not reaching it makes you sick because you learn to invest all of your time, energy, and money into chasing it. You become obsessed. That's what keeps the beauty industry booming. That's what creates viral beauty TikToks. And that's what keeps money flowing out of your pocket and into the pockets of people selling you insecurities. Aspirational beauty standards, systemic in nature, are baked into the very fabric of our culture. It dictates how we internalize and perform beauty, and who we do it for. For the sake of this video, let's focus on aspirational beauty on social media. Maybe you follow a celebrity on Instagram that looks really pretty, always has the best clothes, and you think, if I just look like them, everything would be perfect. I would never complain again. Or you have an entire Pinterest board, like me, about people who you aspire to look like. On one hand, you may collect these images and view them as a fun hobby to look at, like, oh, they're so beautiful, and you go about your day. But more often, you may look at these images and go, oh, they're so beautiful and fun to look at, and I'll never look like them. I need to work harder, buy different clothes, change my skincare routine, and learn how to be more beautiful. These images are almost motivating in the sense that you strive to attain them, but are detrimental in the fact that you never will. You're not a Pinterest board of curated static images. You're a person. Sometimes these idealized images are inaccessible in the sense that they're from rich, powerful celebrities. We look at airbrushed images in magazines. We look at technologically altered bodies in ad campaigns. And we know these images aren't realistic. We know the effort that goes into creating them, but something still entices us to keep wishing, something keeps stroking our insecurities. Engeln actually conducted numerous studies for her book in which she presented these types of images to a pool of participants. Even the participants who utilized media literacy while looking at these idealized images of supermodels were still affected by what they were seeing. They came away from the study with lowered self-esteem. They commented that the images were unrealistic and unobtainable for everybody, even the supermodels themselves, but they still wanted to look like those images. Even if they have to remove a rib or forego healthy eating patterns, even if they know looking like that may end up killing them. But idealized images can also feign accessibility. Maybe they're not from people who have massive wealth or a team of stylists or expensive Photoshop software. Maybe you follow your friends and family and you still think everyone is prettier than you. That there must be something wrong with you, that you can't look like them. Because these are accessible people who do their own makeup or dress themselves, and they do it way better than you do. We hesitate to consider these images idealized because we're like, well, they aren't supermodels, they aren't on TV, they just sit in their room and make beauty TikToks, so why can't I still look like them? Engeln notes that images of our peers usually feel much more realistic than they truly are. We forget that they are posed and possibly edited the same way celebrity images are. As such, we end up comparing our actual selves and real lives to the make-believe selves and pretend lives of others. I know this probably won't even help to realize nobody is the way they look on social media. I don't edit my pictures beyond adding filters or upping the brightness, and even I don't look like that. I'm holding specific poses in my pictures, I'm making certain faces that I find flattering, wearing certain clothes that make me feel confident, and deleting every picture where I don't look my best. Seeing me in real life makes me feel more human than a static image ever could because I'm not posing in real life. I'm not in perfect control of my expression or hair or even my outfit most times. Real life moves, and images don't. Even when our peers aren't trying to sell us beauty products the way, say, Kim Kardashian would, they still shape our reality of beauty and shift our values. Plus, it doesn't help that social media beauty ideals are largely homogenous, much like beauty standards in society and in mediums of the past, like magazines and television. White, thin, enhanced, above average, able-bodied, cis. Beauty standards undeniably affect everyone, regardless of race or body type, but dominating discussions of beauty trends and beauty sickness often focuses on those most favored by the beauty ideal. It ignores the intersections where beauty pressure changes. It fails to ask what heat is applied to a fat black trans woman or a South Asian woman who doesn't fit her culture's idea of beauty standards. I was reading this Allure article written by Caitlin Burns, who is a trans woman, and she describes this uncertain balancing act that she feels judged by. Whenever she doesn't dress to the nines with perfect hair and makeup, she gets misgendered and told that she needs to try harder to be taken seriously as a woman. But when she does dress up like she's told to, she's accused of being a caricature of a cis woman. Black women also have their femininity questioned just by way of existing, where the darker your skin tone and the tighter your hair texture, the less woman you're deemed. The standards for appearance just gets tighter and more restricted across intersections, body type, skin texture, whether you're disabled or impoverished. It's important to include these ideals when discussing beauty because they too are instrumental in how we understand our pervasive beauty standards and our beauty sickness. If you don't know, I run a newsletter called TOE, which stands for Tragedy of Errors. It's an email server where subscribers can reply with their personal experience whenever I send out topic-related questions. I don't always send out questions because of who I am as a person, but it's been 1 year since its conception, and I love being able to hear from the 2,000 of you whenever I get the chance, and it really expands my videos. You can subscribe using the link in my bio if you want to, and I'm going to stop talking about that now. So one subscriber who I'm under the impression is Latina, from the context clues of their submission, wrote to me,
I was raised to be as close to a rich white woman as possible because for women, beauty isn't just about pleasing. It is about survival and getting access to a fair chance. Idealized images on TikTok force me to choose. Do I choose to assimilate, or do I choose my culture?
A trans man who wishes to remain anonymous states,
Growing up being perceived as female, the importance of being quote-unquote beautiful to be considered worthy of respect was driven home from a very young age by both media and the real people surrounding me. This is not a pressure my cis men friends experienced this way in their childhoods, and I often find myself envying them for being able to divest from beauty ideals with relative ease. Even now, 10 years post-transition, I feel the pressure of beauty haunting me every time I look in the mirror and fix my hair. While I have settled into a masculine gender role I am comfortable with and have lived in it for a long time, the deep desire to be seen as worthy still remains. Even if it's taken different forms, I have never felt uglier than when I am not passing.
a Hispanic subscriber who describes how they were often taught by their church or family or school what women should look like, explains their story. Their skin tone, weight, and hair was constantly critiqued by others to the point where their preacher worried about them spending too much time outside during the summer in case they got too dark. Don't even get me started on that. Part of their submission reads as follows.
I recently learned that I've been disabled my entire life, that I am now more disabled than my family thought. On top of it, I'm trans and brown. I've spent my entire life trying to meet standards that were designed to be against me. I was meant to fail. I still try because a part of me internalized that message. Even though I never did truly identify solely as a girl, I internalized all of it. Because I was brown and queer and disabled, it made accepting and loving myself so much harder than it should have been, because I felt like I was failing womanhood. I was failing everyone by not reaching these golden standards I was supposed to.
A 17-year-old Sikh South Asian teenager writes,
Growing up, I was told to keep all of the hair on my body as per my religious rules, and it wasn't until recently that I started shaving. Lately, I've been picking up hobbies and changing my appearance, and I think it's social media's influence on me. I feel like once a month I go through that phase of making a list of clothes I like and how to get my shit together. I think of how I was raised compared to who I've become. I struggle with understanding if the change is a good thing for my own confidence or a bad thing due to all the money and time I spend looking at girls who I want to look like. Especially as a brown girl, where my looks are intertwined with my treatment by others. I've heard other brown women say that they experience a masculinization by society, but my experiences have involved a feeling of being exotic/fetishized, thus my aversion to alternative subcultures and the way women are previewed by them.
One final subscriber wrote to me,
I'm plus-sized, and this has been a thing since I was a child. There are periods where I was quote-unquote chubby, and periods where I was overweight. I remembered being as young as 6 when I realized I'm the biggest girl in my class, and that it wasn't a quote-unquote good look. This only followed me as I grew older, and I've always had issues with my body not fitting in with beauty standards in my country. I find it worrying whenever I think of how much I've succumbed to internalized misogyny, and how much worth I place into fitting in with aesthetic expectations placed on women. I don't even think I can blame patriarchy anymore. I'm not a victim, but an active participant in what I know is a capitalist ploy to benefit off of women's insecurities. It pains me to think that deep down, my academic achievements and future career mean less to me than my looks. And that's what's become of my high school self, who at least used to feel like a person. I hardly do now. The twisted thing is that it makes me happy, and I'm happier than I have ever been in my life.
It's hard to condone beauty sickness in the name of let people enjoy things because I don't think beauty sickness is enjoyable in the slightest. Who enjoys feeling like they're constantly failing and overcompensating for some perceived flaw? Beauty sickness is marked by a deep sense of insecurity and fear, one that leads to endless consumption and comparison. Engeln notes that young girls begin thinking about their ideal body quite young. 34% of 5-year-old girls engage in deliberate dietary restraint at least sometimes. 28% of these girls say that they want their bodies to look like the women they see in movies. The crisis continues as they age. Around 90% of young women have no problem naming a body part with which they are unhappy. About 50% express what researchers call a global negative evaluation of their body. Beauty sickness has the potential to lead to increased beauty procedures and consumption, whether that be plastic surgery, TikTok beauty trends, or just buying an overload of cosmetic products to fix whatever problem people perceive is there. Internationally, 85 to 90% of surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures are performed on women. According to the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, since 1997, the number of cosmetic surgeries obtained by women in the United States has been increased 538%. In 2015, well over $1 billion was spent on breast augmentation alone. Women are responsible for 85% of the spending on beauty products. Market research reports estimate that cosmetics brought in over $60 billion in revenue in the United States in 2015, with over $8 billion on makeup alone. Consumption and spending power is inexplicably linked to the conversation of beauty. I think the minimum price of buccal fat removal, which is a viral procedure at the moment, is around $2,000 based on a simple Google search. That's not chump change. That's more than my rent. I've also been seeing a lot of unsolicited advice from internet users to celebrities or influencers about what they need to get fixed. Someone said that Adele needs to invest in retinol to diminish the appearance of her wrinkles on her face, just because they saw a candid video of her existing. Another person tweeted that a popular influencer needs to get a breast augmentation. A large part of beauty sickness is zoning in on small, usually natural aspects of the body, like someone's natural chest size or the natural occurrence of wrinkles because everyone ages, and suggesting the spending of money in order to fix it. A lot of the beauty or aesthetic trends circulating at the moment place a great emphasis on buying things to get you closer to your desired state. As Engeln argues, ideal images of beauty almost never exist in isolation. They're paired with the products and lifestyles we associate with living the good life. To be that girl, for instance, you need to buy pretty, matching workout outfits and dad shoes. You need to maintain a complex skincare routine complete with color-coded jade rollers and 42 moisturizers. The same goes for clean girl because that's the exact same thing, now with added disdain for acne-prone skin. And so it goes the vanilla girl too. I had to look up what a vanilla girl is because my first thought was racially motivated, and I wanted to make sure TikTok wasn't about to piss me off, especially not during Black History Month. But a vanilla girl looks to be quite similar to that girl and clean girl, maybe with more emphasis on the color beige. It kind of reminds me of light academia, maybe with more tank tops. The article I read to understand the vanilla girl had an interesting line that sums up this whole consumption debacle. The beauty buys you need to sport the aesthetic are already bona fide cult classics. You need to buy things to participate in this aesthetic the way you need to buy things to participate in any beauty trend. You can argue that,
oh, no one is forcing you to buy these things.
You can be that girl in unmatching thrifted gym clothes if you wanted. Just use what you have. Sure you can. At least you should be able to. But when everyone is wearing Surfshark or whatever active wear exists, I don't exercise, it's Gymshark. It is Gymshark. If everyone is wearing a Gymshark lavender crop set and they're buying all of these specific Amazon accessories and they're getting their hair treated at this expensive Los Angeles salon and they're all saying, this is what you need to look like me, this is what you need to be accepted as your ideal self, would you just wear what you have? Would you be satisfied with the possessions you have and the life you're living compared to them? Or would it feel inadequate to you? making you feel much more isolated from your trendy peers. Aesthetic trends that are treated as costumes aren't about enhancing what you already have. And I say costumes because aesthetic niches like that girl largely feel like caricatures to me. That's a key phrase. To me, they're too perfect and calculated and emphasize performing for social media rather than being. They're fun, certainly, and they look really cool to embody. This isn't me saying you shouldn't ever have interest or aesthetic values. Fuck it, we ball. But these niches are about making yourself into something you find interesting but have no real ability to be. You know, like, I think it's interesting to always be put together, to always look good, to always go to the gym and eat healthy, to always embody my perfect self and have perfect hair and expensive accessories. But I also have to pay rent, so $500 headphones are tragically at the bottom of my list. Not to mention that a lot of the motivational content that comes along with certain fitness and lifestyle niches drastically altered the way I see myself. I feel like I need to be constantly working, constantly succeeding, constantly overanalyzing, and constantly restricting my diet, and constantly exercising, and constantly wearing stylish clothing, constantly minimizing myself smaller and smaller until I fit on a 2023 manifestation board. I don't want to be that girl or vanilla girl or clean girl. I don't want to be some picture that other people pin up on their wall. I want to exist. I want to move and breathe and slouch and not care about being a girl boss always reaching peaks, always outdoing herself, always planning and color coding and ingesting and performing. I want to be a person. I want to eat soup and wear the same outfit every time I go out and not do my hair whenever I don't feel like it, and not worry about what my body looks like when I stand a certain way, or how my laugh sounds, or if I'm giving off divine enough energy to attract men. I don't even like them like that. All of this beauty content feels voyeuristic. Beauty sickness makes you feel, not without reason, that you are always on display. And sometimes we participate in the exhibition of ourselves for the pleasure and gaze of others, discounting how stressed it makes us feel in the process. Engeln explains that over 40% of young women say they frequently or almost always felt like someone was evaluating their appearance. They felt on display. I'm sure some, if not a majority of the people who participate in these beauty trends and curate aesthetic identities for themselves are doing it for themselves, but social media in general is built on the idea of being looked at, the idea of performing for others even when they're not there. I've been a YouTuber for almost 3 years now, and I've been a notable YouTuber for maybe 1.5. Having hundreds of thousands of eyes on you at any given moment is cool because I love my job and I love the work that I do, but it can also be harrowing if not for the constant feeling of being gazed at. I didn't wear makeup for the first year of my channel because I just wasn't a makeup person. That's not me being pretentious or anything. I just wasn't allowed to wear a lot of makeup as a teen. But now I feel like I can't film main portions of my videos without a full face of makeup. My appearance is commented on almost as much as my thoughts are, which was very hard to get used to when my platform got bigger. I've gotten weight comments, cheap clothing insults, hair insults. Someone once called me burnt looking. So don't piss me off during Black History Month, okay? This constant surveillance is becoming a reality for everyone, regardless of platform size. Social media has made us all influencers, beauty gurus, TikTokers, YouTubers, and socialites, even if we're not being paid to be. And this is increasing our beauty sickness. Everyone on social media is, in a sense, becoming their own mini celebrities, starring in reality shows of their lives that they are trying desperately to make beautiful at all costs. Engeln compares this to a paparazzi situation. Not only do women feel pressure to look like models and celebrities, now they can even experience a type of anxiety previously limited to celebrities. This is increasing in the age of evolving cyberbullying, where you always have to fear that someone is taking your picture or taking a video of you whenever you're out in the wild and uploading it for the entire internet to see and make fun of. Joshua Gamson, author of The Unwatched Life is Not Worth Living, The Elevation of the Ordinary in Celebrity Culture, also takes note of this transition. They explicitly emphasize ordinariness in their paper, how celebrities are marketed as being your ordinary, everyday people, and ordinary people are marketing themselves as these larger-than-life and iconic figures. I would call this the celebritization of everyday people. Gamson would call it a transformation of celebrity culture in general. The ordinary turn in celebrity culture is ultimately part of a heightened consciousness of everyday life as a public performance, an increased expectation that we are being watched, a growing willingness to offer up private parts of the self to watchers unknown and known, and a hovering sense that perhaps the unwatched life is invalid or insufficient. Through this celebritization of ourselves, the idea of being watched greatly impacts how we view and present our identity. It especially impacts our need to be beautiful, to be nice to look at while we are being so steadily gazed upon. Gamson notes that we are auto-spies who see ourselves through the constant gaze of the other. And this leads us to self-objectify, creating products out of our personalities, and especially pertinent to this video, our beauty. Only a culture so tuned into its own surveillance would make the type of beauty trend videos that we do on TikTok, especially in the amount that we make them. We're becoming social media hashtags, fading trends, and mere niches compared to human beings. We don't just like these aesthetics, which would be fine as is, but we have to become these aesthetics by altering our bodies and changing our entire wardrobe. We effectively have to scrub every inch of ourselves from ourselves to become a product. Even worse, we begin to view ourselves as fragmented products, focusing only on bits and pieces of ourselves rather than the full picture. Our waist, our cheeks, our eyes. This objectification just creates a vicious cycle of desiring, aspiring, failing, and surveilling. We become ashamed of how inadequate we seem to be when it comes to being beautiful. So what do we do about this current malaise? Should I get the lighter in the bra? In truth, getting rid of beauty altogether is quite impossible, and quite frankly, it's unnecessary. Beauty isn't the problem. It's the impossible standards and the obsession this brings that is killing us. Changing the conversation of beauty to
Everyone is beautiful in their own way
doesn't help either. It just reminds us that we're constantly under surveillance, that our appearance is always up for conversation. It also reminds us that we aren't beautiful because the standard to be so is purposefully unobtainable. It also ignores the billion-dollar idea that you don't have to be beautiful, or at least you shouldn't have to be in this society. Being beautiful is not your job, but the way capitalism is set up, we should be allowed to be average, considering a great majority of us on this earth are. There isn't anything particularly or inherently positive or negative about it. It should be treated like an expectation of just existing. We should be allowed to be people, not ornaments. Engeln suggests turning down our obsession, if possible. It's like when you're laying in your room with the overhead light on and it's gross and overwhelming, but you turn it off and set up your lamp or some mood lighting, and suddenly the will to die is slightly digestible. We change how much we look at idealized images. We scroll when we come across certain TikToks. We turn away from the mirror. It's easier said than done, I know. That's why I hate ending these videos on solutions. Let me be negative in peace. But ever since starting my research for this video, I've been implementing certain routines into my day to try and unglue myself from the mirror. Literally, like, I give my outfit like a once-over before I go, and I force myself to leave without staring at it until I hate it. I even refuse to look up beauty trend TikToks for this video, instead subjecting my subscribers to the horrors of recounting what they've encountered in the wild. I'm putting y'all to work. Healing beauty sickness is not something that can be done overnight. Honestly, in a poisoned culture like this, it's probably impossible, especially when you grow up being told how important it is to self-monitor your own beauty. But I think creating boundaries can be beneficial. Try to limit how many times you look in the mirror before you head out. Wait at least a week or 5 before hopping on beauty trends. Unfollow people who make you question your own appearance and worth. Try wearing at least one outfit a week where you don't have to tug and pull and monitor, and an outfit that you can sit down and film a video in. It's not foolproof, but maybe you'll become more aware of how much time, money, and energy you're putting into the mirror, instead of yourself. Yeah, that's all I've got in me. I hope this video was thought-provoking, or at least very pretty to look at. Isn't my job so interesting and hypocritical? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, or whatever. I'm sure you'll be back either way. I'm kind of hard to get rid of. Be safe out there. Love you. Bye. Engeln actually conducted why did I say it like that? Tools, not targets. Tools, not targets. Tools, not targets, dearest viewer. Market research report, oh my god.